remember the ball like came over and I looked and I thought I was going to get there and he just got, he's bloody quick, isn't he? So he got there and yeah.
Aiden, how is life in New York for you? It's your second season in MLS, and it must be quite different from where you've been from before. How's life in New York for you? Like, what's life like in New York outside of football?
Yeah, look, I'm just loving life, outside of football as well as the football, that we're trying to implement here at this club, and I'm really, privileged and honoured to be in the position I'm in.
One of the things that I wanted to ask about your career is you moved to England at a pretty young age, but I read, maybe it's not correct, but I read that your reason for the move there was for your parents' work. Mm-hmm. But you started playing for Burnley's youth, you were involved in the youth setup, and you eventually made your professional debut there. That's very interesting for me because a lot of Australian players, especially, when you see players from abroad, they were brought up in Europe. Some of them, maybe they were born there or they moved there at an even younger age. But you moved there while you were a teenager. Is that
I was 14.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you primary reason for moving there was for your parents, you don't just start playing for a youth academy of a Premier League club, So like, how did that chance come about for you? Like, how did that whole thing start?
Yeah, so like when we moved over, it was for mum and dad for work, and then obviously I was really loved football, and I always wanted to play in England. That was always a big dream of mine, and I was training with a guy who used to work at Manchester City's academy, and he used to have his like private academy on the side. Mm-hmm. And he would get like quite a few scouts to come to those academies. And we were training one day and there was a Burnley like scout. And he just said to me like, oh, would you like to come to Burnley for a trial? And at the time I didn't really know Burnley as a club. They were in the championship then. And then, just went down and I was on trial it was like 6 months because I just turned I was like 15 then because I moved when I was 14 and I turned 15 there. And then, it was like a 6 month trial because in England they do from 16 to 18s like your youth team scholarship. Yeah. So there was no point in signing a contract at under 15s. It was then they were deciding on scholarship contracts. So I was on trial for ages, so I didn't know what was going to happen. But my mum and dad were so good about it. There was no pressure from them. They just wanted me to enjoy it and to pursue something that was a dream of mine. So
that's
really
cool.
Good.
Yeah. How much coming here, when you made the decision to come to MLS, how much did the factor of the United States hosting or North America hosting the World Cup, was that for you when you came?
Yeah, it was definitely my thinking. I think this World Cup's going to be something really special. I think for me personally, I played, this will be my second year here, so I understand, all the different challenges that we might face, and I'll be able to share that with, obviously the national team of Australia. I think that the heat will play a bit of a factor in games, and I've experienced that, and I think I can have little tips and stuff like that for the boys.
Yeah, and funnily enough, Australia will be playing against the United States. So have any of your teammates been having a go at you and telling you funny things about?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an incredible game. Yeah. We played them in a friendly, and it was really competitive, and I think it's going to be an exciting game for everyone to watch.
Talk us about your newest Aussie teammate. How's Kai joining your team? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, it's really good. He's obviously a quality player, and he's an Aussie guy, which is pretty cool. Obviously, when he was coming in, everyone was like, "Oh, you've got a mate here," but and just trying to welcome him and make him feel comfortable, which everyone will because it was exactly the same for me. And it's such a good feeling in our dressing room, and the way that the club works is second to none.
Tony Popovic has arrived as the Australia boss for the national team, and one thing I wanted to ask you was, Graham Arnold, Ange Postecoglou, two managers who've had their success with the Australian national team during their time with Australia. What kind of changes has Tony brought in for you guys? And because he has a reputation of being a really strict leader from the outside, but from the inside, what kind of changes has he made to the Australian national team since coming in?
Yeah, one thing he really spoke about from the start was, it's an honor, to represent your national team, and I think we all felt that, from the first time that he came in, and he was making sure that, any one of us, boys that have played 50, 60 times for the country, don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Every time you get to pull on the jersey is a privilege and an honor, and make sure, you never know when your last international game is going to be. So, yeah, he really instilled that in the group, and just little small details, I think, is massive at that level. And he came in and wanted to, bring everything up a level.
Yeah.
From the bottom to the top, just made a lot of small changes. And yeah, of course he's like a strict leader.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's another side to him as well that maybe, the cameras don't see, and he really wants the best for us, and he wants to push us, just so we can be the best that we can be.
Speaking of Australia, my Australian friends tell me that the A-League is going through a bit of a tough time right now, especially when you look at that region, with Korea being one of the closer countries, Japan, China. Those leagues tend to outspend the A-League. I think from a competitive standpoint, I don't think the gap is too big, to be honest, but in terms of how the leagues are being managed, I feel like there's quite a few differences. And then, we don't even have to mention what's going on in the Middle East, the kind of money that they're spending over there. Based on your experience, you played in Europe, you've also played in Australia professionally, and you're now being in MLS. What are some things that you've experienced, maybe in MLS especially, that the A-League or Australian football in general could learn from?
Yeah, it's tough to pinpoint one thing, but at the moment, the A-Leagues, they really are producing a lot of young players coming overseas, especially, in the last, year or so, coming to the MLS. I think a few things. I think the production in the MLS, what you see on the pitch and all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes is really good. It's top level, like England and Belgium. So I think, there's little things like that, and that's, probably all to do with money. It's quite hard to comment on what they should do.
Sure.
But I'd probably just say those small little things, and it's probably above my pay grade to.
In terms of the style of play, maybe, or from a tactical standpoint, or from an individual player's perspective, or do you notice any stark differences between an average footballer in Australia and maybe a player in MLS?
Yeah, I think there's a they don't play enough games. I think there's always been conversations around that, and how they can get more games, competitive games throughout the year, because you look at the European clubs, and even here the amount of games with Leagues Cup and the MLS, the schedule there, and I think that will really help younger players, because then the gap from a young age starts to go quite quickly if other leagues are playing more games. I'd probably say it's that.
But on the other side of that, when we talk about playing here in the US, the amount of traveling you have to do, and the amount of games you have to play, the tournament. So from your experience, is that more helpful for players' development, you feel like?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, just to, play game minutes, and especially if you can do it from a young age. And then, you've got to learn so much.
Sure.
And then you've got to adapt to all the travel. That's something I had to get used to again here. But, I travel a lot with the national team. So, it's a little bit different, with the time zones and stuff. But,
that is a lot of travel.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think we did really well with it, when we're traveling back to Australia and then coming back and playing in 3 days. But we try to just park it and just, get on with it.
Yeah. Talking about development at a young age, we as Koreans, I think we're getting into a phase where a lot of the younger players are acquiring this courage to go abroad at a younger age. And as a player who's experienced sort of championship in England, how has that period as a young player shaped you as a professional now?
Yeah, I think at a younger age, I think I learned a lot, about how hunger, how much I wanted it, but also how much other players in England wanted it.
It was scale, right?
Yeah, it was eye-opening, you know, especially coming from Australia because, you know, let's face it, in Australia we have, you know, incredible life. Most of us are, you know, very privileged and lucky the position we're in, and in England, you know, you get boys from all different countries, and you know, they might not be in the same situation, and you know, football can be their, you know, way out of wherever they are in life, and that was eye-opening for me, and I think that's something I've always taken into, you know, my football and tried to just give everything, okay, and not really be outworked. Yeah. I think that's something that would probably come out.
This one, you're not gonna like this question, because we have to ask you this as a Korean. Asian Cup from a couple of years ago, Australia versus Korea in the quarterfinal. Big game for both teams, obviously. Australia played a really good first half. You guys take the lead going into halftime. And then things start to turn a little bit in the second half, but you guys hold on to the lead. In the very last minute, Korea equalizes, and the extra time starts, you get sent off for a tackle against 황희찬. And then Sonny scores the goal and Korea win the game. When you face Sonny this year, funnily enough, it's before the World Cup, would some of those memories kind of come back to you a little bit? And also what I wanted to ask you was, a player of Sonny's caliber, him being in MLS, what kind of impact will that have on MLS? So kind of a two-part question for you.
Yeah, that game, I mean, we almost played it perfectly, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it was
no shot for Korea in the first half.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
And, you know, we were just looking to see it out when we were 1-0 up. And then obviously I think it was Sonny that got the ball and went down the line. And you know, we all learn as players. But it was just in the moment, and you know, a mistake from one of our boys and gave away the penalty. And from there, because they were so dominant in the game, especially in the second half, I think, it's only natural sort of to, you know, they were just so on top, and once they equalized, it was tough. And then the tackle, it was just missed time. I would say I'm definitely not you know, going out to hurt anyone or anything like that, and just got it wrong. I remember the ball came over and I looked and I thought I was going to get there, and he just got me bloody quick, isn't he? So he got there, and unfortunately, you know, I got him, you know, a bit too high, and they reviewed it, and you know, you got to live with that decision. It's something I'll never forget in football, that feeling. But
probably your first big major international tournament when you played there, and it kind of ended in a very, probably a big shock for you guys, because you guys had the game in the bag. Will that experience, you feel like, now that you're familiar with the US, now going into the World Cup, will that experience help you a little bit going into another big tournament this summer?
Yeah, I think massively, because, you know, you can be so close, you know, to progressing, but one small, the fine details like we were talking about before can change everything, and that's what happened in that game. So I think it's great, you know, experience that we can take into the World Cup for sure.
I got one last question for you. I remember watching a video of this. Graham Arnold invited Ange Postecoglou to the national team camp in Australia. Were you at?
Yeah, I was there.
I was watching a little clip that was posted online, and he was saying, as Australians, you guys would all know this, giving 100% sometimes is not enough. You have to do more. You have to give more than you have to go above and beyond to be recognized, you know, outside of Australia. You know, as a younger, you know, you're slightly younger than Ange Postecoglou, so does your generation relate to that mindset as well? And is that the mindset you have also, you know, playing football around the world and also representing Australia?
Yeah, I think it's definitely starting to change a little bit, but I think he's definitely right. You know, sometimes when you say, you know, come to a new team, you're Aussie, you know, some people can be like, oh yeah, like, you guys don't really play football there. So
like, that's interesting for me.
Yeah. So I think we're definitely starting to like squash that sort of idea. But we don't mind. I think Australians don't mind being underdogs as well. That's something, we don't mind.
That's interesting for me though, because a lot of times, I mean, even as us Koreans, we go into a lot of tournaments as underdogs too. But a lot of times when we're seen as an underdog, we kind of react in a way like, we don't want to be seen as the underdogs. But I feel like the Socceroos, they enjoy being called the underdogs. And they kind of thrive on that kind of, I don't know if it's pressure, but if that's the right way to put it, but like, how is that mentality kind of formed? Like, is that a cultural thing that you guys are just familiar with? Like, how?
I don't think like we go in as you know, I think we get labelled as that.
Yeah,
we go in. You know, we're very confident in our you know, the way we want to play, and going into games, we're never like, oh, we're the underdogs. We know what we're good at. We, know how to win games.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's more from the outside labeling us as underdogs. Right. And I don't think that affects us at all. Yeah. If anything, it motivates us.
I'll just ask you one last question. Your second year in MLS now, you've got the World Cup, a big tournament coming in the middle of the year. Maybe like a year from now, maybe this time of year 2027, when you look back at 2026, what are some things that you wish you'd have accomplished by then? On and off the pitch, I guess.
On and off the pitch. Yeah. I think off the pitch, I just want to carry on enjoying life, and yeah, football can get, quite stressful at times, but, just trying to remember that I'm, in a very good position, and trying to be grateful for, all the hard work and sacrifice and the life that I get to live. And then on the pitch, I want to keep improving, keep leading, obviously go to the World Cup and do really well with the national team, and have success would be something that, you can look back and not only, next year, but in 10, 20 years time and be really proud of. I think it means so much for all of us to represent the country, and I think to do the country proud at a major tournament is something, you dream of. So I think, that'd be good. That'd be, something to look back in a year. And then obviously with New York here, I think, last season, I think it was really disappointing the way it ended. But, we're building something here, and I think, the team we have and the group, behind the scenes as well is special. And I really do feel like we can really do something again this year.
Thank you so much for taking your time, Aiden.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Cheers.
Yeah.